It's the Human First AI Marketing Podcast. I'm your host, Mike Montague at Avenue 9. Find us at avenue9.com. My guest this week is Sara Nay. I'm really excited to talk to her, CEO at Duct Tape Marketing. A few months ago, we interviewed your father, who was the founder of Duct Tape Marketing and wrote the famous book. So I love this. I think I told you we would start about the role of marketers, but I am also a second generation sales and marketing person. My dad was a Sandler sales trainer for 30
Nice.
years, and that's how our parents met and how we ended up here today. So I guess the question for you here, Sara, is we have a lot longer to go in our career, and this next generation is causing a lot of disruption with AI. How do you see the role of marketers shaking out here in a world with AI?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think that all marketers need to be thinking about themselves right now is how is this going to impact my career, my business moving forward? And a lot of what we've been preaching is it's creating more and more of a need for strategy and leadership. And so marketers today might be, if you're more of in the weeds of the execution, so maybe you're writing a lot of content or you're doing a lot of social, you're managing SEO or paid. Those are types of things that AI tools are being developed to be able to handle in the near future. And so if you're in the weeds doing those things, I think it's time to start thinking about how can I move from doing to managing those different tools and to leading a client in those tools. And so again, we've been talking a lot about marketing leadership as a service. I really think small businesses, those are our people moving forward. Like they're going to continue to need someone to create a marketing strategy for them. They're going to continue to need someone to like help understand their metrics and to help understand their budget and help understand all of these different AI tools. But they're not going to necessarily in the near future need people in all of the execution roles.
Yeah, that part is fascinating for me. Even on the execution right now, I think as we sit today, you can ask ChatGPT to write a marketing email for you and it will do it. You don't necessarily need a marketing person to make something. Whether that email is any good or gets the results that you want is another question. So I kind of think about it like um, what it's doing is predicting the most probable outcome. Most email marketing is not very good.
Yeah.
So if you're getting an average of all of that marketing out there, it's probably not very effective. It might be a 50% chance. If you get pretty good at prompting, if you're in a marketing role or know anything about marketing and you write a better prompt and give it some context about your business, maybe you can get it to an 80%, you know, B minus score, which is not bad if you're doing it for free in a few seconds.
Yeah.
That's not bad. I think if you're high level, you want something that's effective. If you want an A+ grade or even an A minus, I think you're going to need a marketing expert, somebody that has been doing this for their career, that has learned the difference between good and bad and what the stereotypes of marketing are and what the actual effectiveness is. Is that fair?
Ye That's a great point, and I think that's where some small businesses will fail with AI is if they just say, I can fire this marketing agency, whatever, their fees are expensive, and we're just gonna use them and we're gonna replace them with these AI tools, but they don't have true marketing leadership or experience on their team, and so as you said, they might turn to like a ChatGPT and create an average email, because they don't have that experience. And so I think that's really the true value for small businesses is keeping marketing experienced leaders on their team that can manage these tools. Because, AI is great at like assisting with content production, for example, but it still needs all of the input from a human. So like this is our target audience and this is our messaging and these are our core products services and this is our style and tone of voice and brand and all those things. Like you still have to give it that. And then you have to and give it example good emails, that they should follow and mimic and learn from. And so you still have to give ChatGPT and that takes, experience understanding what to put into it. And then with the output, a human still needs to edit it and get it across the finish line ultimately to then get it ready for email. And so I think what ChatGPT or whatever tool of choice you're using is good at is assisting with content creation, but it's not great at emotional intelligence. And so that's where, the human touch in combination with AI is really where you can make the most impact.
Yeah, I love it. You're speaking my language for sure. And I wanted to ask you a little bit more specific about a question about those roles because I do think, and we just saw graphic design get disrupted last week as we're recording this because now AI can do text on images. You may not even need a graphic designer to make every single piece. But as you mentioned, we still want the brain strategy. We still need somebody to find out, decide what our colors are, what our font choices are, and how we want to create our brand image and name. But once that's done, asking a tool to make it and make it similar to previous pieces or to make it within these guidelines is becoming more and more easy. As you think about the different roles, I think we've agreed that like high level strategy, the fractional CMO, the chief marketing officer job is probably not going anywhere anytime soon. I think the individual lower level jobs are threatened. But what about the middle jobs? What about the social media manager or something like that? How do you see the different roles being assigned or which ones can AI take and which ones can't?
In those roles, I would say AI can assist those people to move faster and to make a bigger impact and to research data and all that stuff. So I do think like the social media manager, like that's still like a human is best in that because not only are they, following a strategy and creating assets, but oftentimes they are like commenting and increasing engagement and, all of that stuff as well. So I think in those roles, like AI tools are making their jobs easier in a lot of cases and even being able to make more of an impact in the businesses that they're working with. To your point on like the lower, like kind of more entry level roles, I agree. I do think some of those positions are at risk, but I do think small businesses will still need someone to manage the different AI tools that they bring in. And so if they're using like a ChatGPT to create content, for example, and they're using a different tool to manage their paid ads, like a person still needs to be working those tools and managing them and getting really great at them. And so if your core focus today as a marketer is, and I'm not saying this is low level, there's a lot of skill and experience that goes into copywriting, but if your core function is copywriting right now, that's a prime example of a lot of tools are being built to make content writing faster. And so your role, I don't think it's ever going to be like people need content. Like that's always going to be a thing. But like a copywriter's role will just shift from sitting down and writing every single word to utilizing tools and research to be able to make content faster. And if you're good, more effective.
Yeah, and you mentioned learning to get good. I'm going to ask you a really hard question here, and it's
Uh-oh.
okay to say I don't know or speculate. But you all certify marketing consultants and fractional CMOs at Duct Tape
Mhm.
Marketing, and I'm wondering how you see the future of this. If people are not doing the lower level tasks, how do we get good at marketing in a world where we're not able to maybe learn and fail at the lower levels? In some ways, I think AI makes learning marketing easier because you can just ask ChatGPT, or there's more videos and more content ever about what good marketing looks like.
Yeah.
Um, Curating those resources is tougher than ever in a sea of content that's got tidal waves coming at us every single day. But also, I think the opportunity to kind of maybe, try and fail and do the thinking required to write a
Yeah.
blog post by yourself is lacking. And so I think it creates this weird tension between learning good marketing in 2025 or 2030 is going to be a lot tougher. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. And we were actually talking about that to someone I consider an expert in the AI space, and she's been in the game for a long time. And she was expressing she has a lot of concern for people entering marketing right now. So they're entering the world and they're going to learn completely differently than the way we all learned getting into this space because everything was a lot more manually. And now you can skip a lot of steps with the resources that are available. So honestly, I don't know how that will impact, but if I was just getting into the marketing space right now, just out of college, this is my first job, like what I would focus on would be learning different AI tools and getting really great at them and working on like the operations side of marketing more and also the strategy side of marketing more. Like that's really where I would put a lot of my focus right now if I was just entering that space. And it's a lot of what I'm focusing on right now, even 14 years in.
Yeah, I think that's a really smart answer. It also begs the question of what you and I were talking about before we hit record, which is there's so much information coming at you. I almost feel like it's good marketing advice, right? To always find your niche and stuff. And I don't know how you do that if you're young and you haven't decided what it is yet. But as a more senior marketer and you and I in the middle of our career, um, I'm feeling the pressure to niche down because the overwhelming noise of just 50,000 new AI marketing tools that are announced last year, or the flood of newsletters and announcements and posts, and you got frontier models that are you know smarter than humans, and we have these functional tools that are pretty dumb. It feels overwhelming. How are
Yeah.
you balancing or recommending that people kind of even keep up to speed uh, for senior people in their careers?
Yeah. I think like we always say strategy before technology, like understand what you're trying to accomplish versus just signing up for all of these tools because I've done it myself. Like I don't know how many AI tools I've at least signed up for a free trial on. Like the list is large. And so it's easy, it's tempting. You're like, "Oh, this could solve this problem. I'm going to go explore this next." And all of a sudden you're just playing in all these tools not well instead of just like deeply focusing on the core ones that will help you do the most. And so I think that's a really important thing to keep in mind. I received an email newsletter yesterday from the author of AI Driven Leader. Jeff Woods, I think is his name, if I remember correctly. I really like a lot of what he's doing, but he shared in an audit that you should go through to solve this problem. And he basically recommended like listing all the skills that you're doing in your job on a regular basis. And then for each of the skills that you write down, answer the question, could AI perform this better and faster than a human? Which I think is a really important thing to think about. And then in all of your skills, this I thought really stood out to me. Basically, mark, is it increasing in value? Is it stable or is it decreasing in value? And then that should help tell you, okay, what should you hold on to as a human versus what should you start finding or using AI tools for? And so I thought that was a good way to like take a step back from let's just dive into all these tools to, what am I actually trying to accomplish by like analyzing what I'm consistently doing. And so for me, like what I do a lot of where I think I can provide the value is training. So I train all of our new fractional CMOs, our consultants. I handle a lot of those sales calls. I do a lot of consultations. Like that to me is like continuing to increase in value because I'm helping people sort through all of this noise. But I also, for example, write some content. Like to me, like it's not necessarily decreasing in value, but that's stuff that AI could assist me to do better at this point. And so if you're sitting there thinking like, where do I start or what tools should I look into? Like really do an audit of how you're spending your time and then think through, could AI help me with this? And then start thinking about tools from there. So I thought that was just a good approach to break it down that way.
Yeah, that's really good. And I want to ask you a question in a second about which marketing strategies you think are increasing in value and which ones are decreasing. But before we go there, I want to finish this conversation because this might just be me and I might be getting free therapy at the moment. Uh, I found that when I'm like in my zone marketing, and especially like with this podcast, I can create the podcast titles, LinkedIn posts, descriptions, keyword tags, like all kinds of email follow ups, blog posts from this content. And I can actually make more content than I can even consume myself
Yeah.
in the next hour after we stop the recording. And sometimes I find myself in this little bit of like uh, a manic episode or some sort of like panic and overwhelm where it's like, well, I can't even keep up with the amount of content that I can make. How is my audience going to do that? Or I find myself jumping between tools and it's like, whoa, no, just slow down,
Mhm. Yeah.
focus, do one thing at a time. Let's do the podcast and then we'll worry about scheduling the social media posts. But I also feel this pressure from the outside of like, everybody else is doing this. I need to crank and just to keep up with the speed, I need to be putting out posts every single day, which is not a new challenge for marketers, but how do you personally deal with the pressure to do more faster and better stuff every single day?
Yeah, I mean, it's easy to put that pressure on yourself, and I think probably most marketers do. But like with all of our clients, because we serve small business clients directly as well in the fractional CMO model, and we go into long-term retainers with them. And for none of them, we're not doing more content. Like AI hasn't encouraged us to
Mhm.
do more content for any of our clients. What AI is helping us is to do better research to create better content, I think, than we were previously when we didn't have access to these things. And so I think that's where a lot of businesses feel that overwhelm. It's like, I need to be doing more and more and more and more. It's no, the answer isn't always more. The answer is, can you get better quality content out of things assisting with AI? And I think that does take some of the pressure off of the volume piece.
Yeah, that's great advice there. And then back to the marketing, strategy or tool discussion. I'm seeing that some of these are becoming, more commoditized. Let's say like an SEO blog post. There's just so many posts that can be made. I don't know the incremental value of an extra blog post these days.
Yeah.
Same thing with social media, but you mentioned I love that your role is like training and in-person events and one-on-one sales calls. I think those are actually becoming more valuable. It's sort of like the shift away from direct mail, in the 2000s. It's like, well, now I only get 4 direct mail pieces a week. If somebody actually wanted to get a marketing message in
Yeah.
front of me, putting something in my mailbox would probably be one of the better ways to get my attention. I feel like those face-to-face meetings are becoming the same way. Like nobody is picking up the phone.
Yeah.
So that becomes more valuable. How are you seeing the landscape shifting this year in marketing strategies?
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree. I think anything that you can put a human touch on, that's going to get more people's attention. Because there's a lot of companies putting out noise. There's a lot more content. There's so much to consume. People are deciphering, is this AI? Is this a human? Like there's just like people are creating videos fully, using AI at this point and images
Yeah.
and all of the things. And so it is harder to stand out there. And also the SEO world is shifting, with different ways people are searching now. So I use ChatGPT for all of my search efforts. Previously, I used to use Google. So things are completely shifting in that world. But where people are having success with their marketing are doing things like that are more traditional marketing. So like PR is still getting some traction, like direct mail, as you said.
Mm.
Not as many people are leaning into that. Especially, like, when's the last time someone sent you more than just, like, a flyer, like, an actual, like, lumpy mail piece? Like, that would get your attention these days. We have one of our members that shared recently who's gone through our certification that she is hitting, like, her revenue goals for the year already because she's going to conferences, she's making connections, and then she has a sticky note on her desk where she's calling 2 people per day, and that has
Yeah.
allowed her to hit her revenue goals because people want that human connection and experience still.
Yeah, fascinating. I know you've mentioned webinars and live events and stuff too. I think that one to me is neutral. It's always been valuable. Webinars, kind of become overwhelming and stuff too post COVID. It kind of got saturated, but I still feel like people want to show up and know that it's a real human, and there's some value to being able to ask a question or to experience some sort of even a virtual live event is different than, oh, I recorded this hour-long thing and it's up on YouTube, get it whenever you want.
Yeah.
Um, I find
Well, that
myself putting it in my watch later list, but not ever actually watching it, right?
well, and like too, people are gonna get so used to getting information faster now that their attention spans are gonna decrease. Like
Mm.
I already watch training on 2 times speed. Like I'm already trying to consume stuff fast. But now you can literally take a webinar that's an hour long, you can put it into an AI tool. It can give you the summary and most important talking points, and you can interact with GPT asking it
True.
specific questions that you still have. So like now you don't have to necessarily watch an hour webinar. You can get the content faster. And so I think that's also some things that people need to consider in terms of marketing. Like, maybe webinars are going to start losing a bit of traction because people's patience start to disappear. And I've been talking to some people that are in the course creation industry. Same kind of thing. Are people gonna have the patience to sit through hours and hours of online courses if they know they can go consume information faster in other places? And so for us, like we've always done webinars. That's always been a big focus. We're still doing our we do monthly webinars to talk about our program. We're still doing that consistently, but we're adding a second webinar. We're just starting to test this. That's more of a mini class working session. You're actually going to come, you're going to put the work in, you're going to walk away with something. Because I think that's more of what people are going to need is like actually encouragement to like take action and not just get frozen on information overload. And so that's a bit of where we're shifting on stuff like that.
I love the idea of workshops.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think people can't carve out the time. Like where you're sitting at your desk and you're being overwhelmed by all of this information and things moving faster, providing some space and time for people to sit down and actually make the marketing plan or make the piece feels more valuable these days
Yeah.
than it did.
Yeah. And
2 to
that's,
5
I think
years.
that's the biggest challenge with like a lot of people that go through courses, that go through training. Like they go consume the information, then they do absolutely nothing with it. And so I spoke to another woman recently, and she does all online courses, like that's or online workshops or training, like that's her whole business. And every time after she does a live online training, the next day she has an implementation day where anyone that signed up for any of her previous courses can come and they basically implement together, and she's there to guide them and answer questions. And I was like, that's a really interesting concept. You teach someone something and then you hold them accountable, but you're still there, because if someone listens to something in a training, like they take it in, but then when they start applying it, that's when the questions really start to come up. And so she helps guide them and hold their hand through the execution as well. So I thought that was a really interesting way to do it.
Yeah, I like that a lot. And I wanted to highlight the other thing you mentioned, which is I think it's still important to do the webinar once because you can repurpose it, just like you said, your buyers or clients can. So once you create that thought leadership and you spend the time to create the presentation, do the hour-long talk tracks and everything, you can turn those into books. You can create the micro pieces that they need. You can clip out highlights and shorts from it. You can atomize that content in a way that makes it more relevant to the people that are looking for it, so they don't have to do that hard work. And you can fill a month's worth of marketing content with one webinar if you spend the time on it.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's, I think that's the story we're telling to a lot of our clients as well, because in the past, like we would just have to be creating all of this content from scratch. But now it's like, no, if you're on a podcast, if you speak in an event, if you do a webinar, or just record videos from YouTube for YouTube, ultimately, like we'll guide them on like the storyline and what content to produce and all that good stuff. But then we'll take it from them and then we'll repurpose it. And so before we were starting from scratch, now we're starting from their video, and then we're turning that into, as you said, social clips, emails, guides, like all of the things from there. And so I think that can be somewhat overwhelming as to what you were saying earlier with AI, but I think there's a lot of opportunity there, because it's not just like the business owners having to create, or whoever's creating content. It's not like they have to create more and more and more content now. It's like, no, identify your thought leadership content. What are the core things that you want to be known for, that you want to be ranking on, that, that solve your clients' problems, all those things, and really go in on those things. And then take those talks or presentations or videos and then turn those into written form of content. So I think that's a really exciting thing that AI can help with.
Yeah, me too. I think that's one of our main service offerings here at Avenue 9.
Yeah.
And that's the human first part of it, is like when you do the human first part, when I interview the founder, your top salesperson, your
Yeah.
best client, and I collect those stories first, then it turns into really good marketing. If you try and make AI write something that your founder can say, and you're repeating the AI stuff, you're getting that 50% garbage again. But
Yeah.
if you go from the founder first, then you put that into AI, it's creating really good stuff. So that's an awesome lesson. A
Yeah.
couple last questions for you here, Sarah. One is, where do you think it all shakes out? What does marketing look like maybe, 5 to 10 years from now? Where do you think the trend is going to end up?
Yeah. I mean, it's a really great question, and I know you told me you were going to ask me this, but I think it's so hard to predict 5 to 10 years from now, like I'm having a hard time right now predicting what's going to happen over the next year in terms of marketing because it is changing so quickly. And so like in the near future, I think a lot of what we talked about, like strategy is going to become more important. Marketing leaders are going to become more important. Marketers are going to move from executors to managers. Teams will be a combination of humans and AI. And so like I can see that far. But, like, I honestly 5 to 10 years from now, it just seems like a completely different world. I think about my kids. So I have a 4 and
Yeah.
6-year-old, like, they're growing up with AI. And so one of my favorite things that I like to do with them right now is ChatGPT. They come in my office and they are like, "I want a coloring page with this," and they explain it, and then ChatGPT creates a coloring page, like, and they're watching it happen. And so, like, at
Yeah.
4 years old and 6 years old, like, they're already playing with AI. So when they're 34, if we're talking about 30 years from now or however long in the future, like, I don't know what their lives will look like, but it's gonna be completely different.
I agree with you. I think it's easier in the 1 to 3 year. I don't know that you can make a 3 to 5 year business plan at this point. I think you can make
Yeah.
a 3 to 5
Yeah.
plan and readjust. But there is an event horizon that I can't see past. For me, I think it's the AGI, the general intelligence. Like once
Yeah.
AI becomes smarter than every human on the planet,
Yeah.
who knows
Who knows?
what happens and how that changes our world. But if you had to guess, so I'm going to make you guess one more time. If we go like 30 years out just for society, do you think that we end up in a utopia where like we don't have to work for a living and we all just play and create and stuff, and AI like has developed the food replicators from Star Trek, and we can just say, hey, I want chicken Alfredo tonight, and it shows up in some magical fassion? Or do you have any other crazy vision of where our lives end up in our lifetime or your children's lifetimes?
Again, like, I know you want me to guess, but I feel like I can't. But we do
Okay,
talk a
which
lot with
one
my
would you
team, like,
prefer? What sci-fi movie do you hope we end up in, or world we live in?
I don't watch a lot of sci-fi, but I do hope we end up in a world where, AI is making life easy and it's doing good. I think there's a lot of unknowns and there's a lot of potential bad cases for AI. And so I hope that regulations are in place and I hope that people continue to use them responsibly. And I do think it will completely change the workforce, not just in marketing, but in all different areas. Because as you said, there's a story where AI is potentially processing and making better decisions than humans can. And so I hope that it continues to be a positive experience. We always joke with our team that like we're kind to AI, like we're kind to ChatGPT. We're saying please and thank you
Right?
because we don't know what the future unfolds. So again, I know you want me to commit to something, but I don't feel like I can. I just hope it continues to progress in a positive way.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think there will always be a role for humans, and we're at the point where I think there's always going to be a role for AI. I mean, there's jobs that we don't want humans doing, like mining toxic chemicals or
Yeah.
bomb disposal or something. Like, let's have robots do those. So,
Yeah.
uh,
Well, and it's interesting too, like, just on that point, like, I just think there's so much possibility. We've talked a lot about marketing, but I shared a story on LinkedIn recently where I got an MRI and I got the results and I had no idea like what it meant because it was like all in medical explanation. And so I put it into ChatGPT and I was like, can you actually explain this to me? I don't have any medical experience, like dumb it down, essentially. And it explained like exactly what the MRI results meant. And then I asked, okay, based on this, like, what do you recommend that I do until I talk to the doctor? Just because, like, I tore a ligament in my ankle is what happened. So I just didn't know, like, should I be wearing a boot? Should I be wearing a brace? Like, I just really didn't know. And the doctor, told me it was going to be like 3 or 4 days before they got back to me. So I didn't want to just like sit and wait. And so it gave me some advice, and ended up being similar advice to what the doctor said when we did talk. And it also prepared a list of questions for me to talk to when the doctor did call. And so, like, in the past, I just felt like I would just not know how to handle that situation. I would just be waiting and like Googling probably the individual medical storms and putting it all together on my own. And so that's an interesting look into, like, I'm not replacing doctor's advice necessarily, but I felt like it gave me a little bit more control in the situation that I didn't previously have as a patient. So that's just an interesting, like personal use case.
Yeah, I love that. I'm glad you're okay, and hopefully the ankle heals nicely.
I'm standing
Um,
now, so we're good.
exactly. That's great. But I think you're right on. There's so many use cases where we don't have enough people or doctors in
Yeah, they're
positions,
busy.
and if you got to wait 3 months to get in to see your general practitioner, you might as
Yeah.
well like do a virtual visit with a doctor or a nurse practitioner, and then get some results and ask what you should be doing. And I live by myself currently, and I every once in a while, will freak out and be like, Am I having a heart attack? Am I weird? Or did I just eat too much pizza? Like
Yeah.
I need some advice here." It is nice
Yeah.
to be able to get short answers, or not bother a professional with your own personal musings late at night.
Yeah. I
So
agree.
that's great. There's a lot of cool examples for that. All right, Sarah, before we let you go, tell us more about duct tape marketing. How can you help us, or how can we help you?
Yeah. So Duct Tape Marketing, been in business for 30 years, been with the company for 14. We are a fractional CMO agency. And so we certify marketing consultants, agencies, coaches that want to move more into the fractional seat, which is a lot of what we talked about in this episode. Like marketing leadership is really important now more than ever, I would argue. And so that's a core side of our business. And then we also do work directly with clients as well. And so we come in, create a marketing strategy, move to a long-term fractional CMO retainer. And in that, we're installing a lot of different AI systems within the business to help them fully optimize their marketing team. So that's Duct Tape Marketing.
Awesome. I love it. Go check them out, ducttapemarketing.com. And Sarah gave us a special link with a couple offers too, whether you're a small business or a marketing person. There is two on that landing page. So check the show notes below. Also, don't forget avenue9.com is the website for my agency. We can help you use human first AI marketing in your business, whether that's with strategy or some execution with generative AI as well. Until next time, keep going, keep learning, and have fun with it, everybody. We'll see you next week.